We are here on for season 2, segueing to season 2 here with the Maddox podcast, and we are starting off with an oldie but a goodie, right? This is our bocce, and so we're gonna whine about the Bay today and talk some real estate.
Yeah. So let's explain. If anybody hasn't seen season 1 of the podcast, go check that out. But we get together weekly. What do we do? How often do we post?
Podcast or
weekly, monthly,
every other week?
Yeah. Every couple of weeks. Yeah. We get together, we drink a bottle of one of our favorite wines, featured for the week. Jason can describe what this one is. What is this?
This is a red blend from S2-E called the bocce.
One of our
It's not
favorites.
the bocce, but it's bocce.
One of our favorites. It's a very classic, easy to drink wine.
Very social.
Good social wine, pairs well with a lot of different things as well. Oh. But we like to drink wine at 11 in the morning and talk about real estate and what's happening in the market. So that's what we're here to do. Normally, we would have introduced our brand new agent, Cindy, on season 2. That was the plan, but Cindy had a little bit of a...
Well, Cindy got taken out by a baby gate.
It happens.
So she tripped over a baby gate and has a sprained ankle, not broken, thank goodness.
Those darn kids.
Those kids. I mean, she made it through... How many kids does she have? She has a lot of kids.
Like
she made it through all those kids, and now
Six,
and now this one, this last one took her out. So,
No.
But we're hoping to have her here next time, our newest member of the team. So, yeah.
And Amy's not feeling good today. She would normally be here too, but she's not feeling too well today. So it's just the
You're stuck with us.
More wine for us.
More wine for
us.
Yeah,
Seriously.
stuck with us. So, yeah.
So on today's episode, we're just going to kick it off by talking about what the heck is going on in this market today. We're experiencing a very different market than we were 6 months ago, even 3 months ago. It's a very different market. Seems like it's changing day to day. And just kind of give buyers and sellers advice on how you can navigate this changing market, what some good strategies are, and just kind of talk about what's going on, state of the market.
Yeah, and I think we want to focus on what what we would advise buyers to do in an uncertain, changing market like this, even other agents. So we'll kind of stick there just so it stays kind of timeless, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
what are we experiencing? What is going on with these interest rates? What is projected? What do we think is going to happen?
Well, I know for some of my clients, over the last 6 months has been very volatile. Mm-hmm. And initially when interest rates started going up, of course, buyers are used to the 3% rate. And so what is this all of a sudden, this 5%, 5.25, and it really freaked and still freaks some people out. I reminded them when I first bought my first property, it was at 6.5%. So in a way, we're just starting to get back, and that was a million years ago.
But that seemed low at the time.
But at the time, that was the
norm.
A great interest rate.
Right.
I think I got one at 6.25 and one at 6.50. So at the time, probably at 2000, over 20 years ago, that was interest rate at the time, and that was fine. So we're just kind of getting back to it in a way where the interest rates really should be. But it's a difficult pill to swallow when the feds are continuing to raise the interest rate and there's this volatility in the market.
And I think it's important to talk about why we're thinking interest rates are rising so much, and we are really getting back to kind of the normal where they used to be. The pandemic completely changed everything, and I think so many buyers got in their head that this is what the market's like, and it was not.
Right.
In an effort to stimulate the economy during a completely crazy changing time, they lowered interest rates. We were seeing mid 2s to 3s. I mean, it's almost sickening.
Yeah.
I refied for 2.99, and I was like, shucks, I could have got 2.5 a month later. Like, I was
never
so stressed out that
Right.
it was too high, and it definitely was not a normal market. There was a lot of things we could say about the pandemic market, but I think this that we're experiencing now is more of a normal market, which kind of ties into agents these days. There's so many new agents in this market, and I think a lot of the pandemic brought a lot of new agents in because there was so much hustle and bustle and activity, and now we're going to kind of see who can really withstand these
Right.
changes. The art of negotiation is back. Non-contingent is not necessarily a thing
And that's
for
what being a
everybody
real estate
anymore.
agent is all about.
It's what being an agent is all about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk about if you're a buyer and you're going in to make an offer on a property, what kind of guidance are you giving your buyers? What is your conversation like today versus a year or two ago?
Right.
Anybody wanna?
Well,
wanna
I
jump in?
think,
Yeah.
you know, I'm besides Cindy, the newest on the team, and definitely I was advising my buyers that we want to be competitive. We want to, you know, make sure that we're doing everything we can to not have those contingencies, to do our homework ahead of time. Whereas now, you know, we want to make sure that we have a little more. I'm sorry, I'm totally lost my train of
it's
thought
okay.
here.
I think what you're trying to
More
say is buyers have a little bit more room to negotiate now and a little bit
Exactly.
more power,
Yes.
which they didn't have much during the pandemic. I mean,
Absolutely.
2 years ago, which Lisa, you were probably just kind of getting started in real estate, but 2 years ago, buyers were going in and, you know, they're literally offering up their firstborn to get a house.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have to be non-contingent in some cases with no inspections, reports. I mean, it was just this complete frenzy. You're still in multiple offer situation. People were doing whatever they could to get their foot in the door and just nail down a home.
Yeah.
And today, buyers actually have a little bit of power. And I think
Absolutely.
it takes a good agent to, you know, everything's case-by-case basis, but to really dive into disclosures and see, hey, how should we really be working on this? Are there repairs that we need negotiated up front? Are you willing to take on X, Y, and Z? And buyers don't necessarily have to take on everything like they did a few years ago, which is actually a great thing because are you going to be using a lot of their money towards their down payments and their payments with these higher interest rates?
Yeah, one thing that I definitely am talking to my buyers about now is, wow, I think I just
It's the wine.
in and out.
It's the
Let me
wine.
have another drink then, because
Well,
this isn't
I can
working.
share with you in my situation, it really is a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm.
Because even now in certain areas, Berkeley, Oakland, at least in our area, I have buyers where I submitted an offer, no contingencies, just like I would a year ago, and they're like, "Thank you, we've received 23 offers," and we're like, "Wait, what happened to this market that was supposed to be like? Where is this market at declining?" So, while it is in some areas that is the case, in others it isn't. So it is very prudent to have somebody who's really you're partnering with, who really knows each individual market,
Yeah.
who knows when they can negotiate, when they can't negotiate, and really, you know, have that trust relationship with each other where, let's say I'm going to say, okay, in this particular area there's no inspections, let's make sure that we negotiate this A, B, and C, and that they can feel confident in me when we're looking in another area where I say, listen, we got to throw the baby in, like, you know,
Right,
this
right.
is the time to throw the baby in, and having somebody who knows the difference, especially in this very changing market, is super important. And that's when you're going back, for instance, I'll go back and look at the comps, not the comps necessarily from 6 months ago, the comps within the last 2 months, and what's currently pending. And I'll start calling those agents to try to figure out how long were you in contract
Right.
for, how many offers did you get, where are you landing at, so I'm not providing inaccurate information,
Yeah.
which could be very well be from 6 months ago, because we're in such a
Well,
rapidly changing
it's
market.
tough to go back a couple months because there's nothing to compare it to, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like there's such a problem like trying to value the house, you know, when you go back. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And I'm sorry if my thought
Yeah.
finally kicked in.
Speak it.
Just basic communication.
Yeah.
You know, as an agent,
Yeah.
calling the other agent and saying, hey, what are your sellers' priorities?
Yeah.
What are they
Right.
looking for? And finding different ways to sweeten the pot and to work together. You know, that communication between agents is really what's going to get your deal going and keep it going.
right,
So
building that relationship.
I agree.
that's
Yeah.
one thing I'm advising my clients
Absolutely.
is we
Yeah.
want to base our kind of game plan on what we're hearing, how to move forward in a way when we don't know exactly what the price point should be, in a way that's respectful to all parties.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you said it best. Communicating with the listing agent if you're representing a buyer is really important because sellers are still, I mean, most sellers have kind of realized that there's a big shift happening, but compared to May of this past May, maybe like May 15th, we always say, that really was the tip top of the market
Right.
for last year. And ever since then, we've been seeing a decline. But it does take sellers a little bit of time to kind of realize what's going on. So
Yeah.
you still have, it is a complete mixed bag. You still have your sellers that think their house is worth $1 million when
Right.
it's not.
Right.
And they, you know, are telling their agents to list high, which that's case by case. Then you're seeing price reductions in some cases. So it really takes an agent that can continue to educate their buyers, which the education period might be a little more lengthy right now. but that continue to educate their buyers and say, hey, I know that, you saw a price reduction on this house, but that's not what's going on here. They listed transparently, or they listed well below because they learned what the market's doing, and they're kind of using the, strategies that we used to use back in the day, listing a little bit low, stimulate some competition, and then get multiple offer situation.
One of the things I do when I'm working with a buyer and we're writing an offer on a property is I'll go back and I'll research the agent, and I'll look at where they list versus where they sold, right? And I'll look at kind of,
That's so smart.
I'll get like a percentage, right? And I'll go, well, they're listing here, they want to sell here, or this is their history. So we probably should offer a certain percentage above whatever they're listing at, and that's seemed to help a lot. And in some cases when the market goes crazy, it doesn't, because it's just so uncertain and the prices are going crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But most of the time, researching that agent and building that relationship, we just went into contract today on a property in Pinole, and
Congratulations.
thank you. We got 5 offers. 3 offers were throwaways, and then there were 2 top offers. One of the offers was just submitted. Never even heard from the agent. Didn't get any.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. No text, no call, nothing. I met the clients. I think these are her clients. I met the clients at the open house. Fantastic people. And I'm just thinking, wow, do you know like what your agent is not doing for you?
Yeah.
Not representing you very well. So it is so important to make that phone call and, build that relationship with that agent. I mean, you may not get it every time, but you're still building that rapport, and that agent will think about you next time. I do that all the time.
You build a layer of confidence,
Right.
right? Because the last thing that you want to do as a seller's representative is to recommend or say, okay, here are the top 2, and then the one that you agree is the right one to move forward with, and they're counting on you and your expertise, then something happens, or they fall out of contract, or they're not responsive, or there's something. So building that layer of like you said, communication, of confidence with the other agent is so vital, because oftentimes I've heard, well, you're not the top offer, but I
Right.
feel so confident with you and your team that we're going to take the $5,000 or $10,000 hit just to know that you're going to close,
Right.
because you've been able to communicate, like, we're committed, we can't make that number, but we're committed to close, we can close in this many days, we're removing these contingencies, and you present your client in the strongest light, that oftentimes you get it even if you're not the top offer.
And as a listing agent, it goes back to researching the agent, like you do. I mean, we all do when we're listing a property, and see, okay, has this agent closed deals? Does the agent know? I mean, yeah, they can offer a great number, doesn't mean it's going to close.
Right.
Right. So it's just terms. I mean, a lot of different things play a huge part. So
Yeah.
So let's kind of segue into, you just mentioned you had a listing going on in Pinole right now. What are you seeing? What's the market like in real time? How many offers did you say you got?
we got 5. So when I took the listing 8 months ago, the market was different, and the market did change, and the clients knew it. They're great sellers. They totally understand the market, which is awesome. We don't get that very often. Sometimes our sellers think their house is worth way more than it should be. But they totally get it, and they know that the market, the market has changed a little bit. And so, we went out there, we listed it a little bit higher than I recommended. So I was a little bit worried that we wouldn't get everybody in the door. But we ended up getting, I thought we were going to get 4 offers. We ended up getting 5. And it turned into a really nice negotiation. I think it's a win, honestly, for everyone. They're getting, in my opinion, a little bit more than I thought we would probably land at. So, it just kind of tells you the market has changed a little bit. And it's just kind of one of those things. When the market does change, it's advising your sellers, advising your clients, and communicating, going back to communication. But we landed exactly where we should have.
Well,
and
I think, I just want to point out that house was beautiful,
Yeah,
in great
thanks.
condition, great location, priced correctly, which goes a really long way. You had 2 weekends of open house and then accepted offers, and bam, 5 offers.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think we are seeing more and more frequently properties that aren't priced correctly, and that really damages the time on the
absolutely.
market
Oh, yeah.
and how many offers they're getting.
Yeah.
So yeah, as a buyer's agent, I specifically tell my clients, we want to look for these places that are maybe priced a little higher than they should, and
Right.
wait for their offer date to pass,
Right.
and see if we can,
See,
snag a little bit
and
of
that's
a
a great
deal.
point,
That's a
because you're
great
talking
point.
about being a buyer's agent, but on the selling side, when you're listing the property, it's a very different conversation that we have with our sellers, right? So my conversation is usually, especially in a changing market like this, I like to look at a few things. There's not too much history on what's sold, or comps in the area on what's sold, because the market's been changing. The weather's been really nasty here in the Bay Area, just not a ton of activity right now. But I like to look at what's listed on the market, maybe some things that have sold, and try to price a few ways. I tell my seller, we want to price below a big number, right? So we want to price it probably a little more conservatively than what they want. You figure that most buyers are searching in increments of like 50,000. So up to 700, up to 750, up to 800. And you want to try to list a little more conservatively so that you can bring in multiple buyers, because Jason always says it best. When somebody wants something, they will find the money to make it happen.
So true.
They will find the money. And I think a lot of buyers right now are being a little bit more conservative, because they know they might have to compete for something that, depending on the scale of where you list versus where it's going to go. But they usually know they're going to have to compete in some way to get a property, and have a little bit of cushion from where they're searching. So I think that's a really good point on the listing side. But sellers do have a hard time kind of coming to terms with that, and we always tell them, you don't have to accept anything that you're not willing to take. It's purely strategy to get buyers in the door, so that we're in front of their face. You figure they're scrolling on a computer, all they see is price and stats. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? Why is the neighbor's house listed at $699 and you're listed at $799 when you're both 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, things like that.
Well,
So-
and there was a really good example a few years ago when you had that property in El Bronte, I believe, or was it where the neighbor's house was listed for it was like that,
Oh.
$699 or $599?
It was $740. It was exactly that.
Yeah.
Yes. It was $749. This agent was listed for $749. He had cell phone photos. I'm not joking. Him in the mirror, pictures of him in the mirror, toilet seat up, just
That's crazy.
Russian. And we went on. We had the exact same. That was a remodeled house. So they had done a bunch of work, had been represented poorly. We were coming on the market, and I had this conversation with my clients, and I said, look at our competition. I think we can land around $750 or better where they're listed, but I want to go on at $699. We're not quite as updated, but we do have a lot going for us in other ways. The yard was nice, and there was, had its ups and downs compared to the other one, pros and cons.
Were they receptive to that?
Super receptive, super trusting. They were fortunate enough to be in a situation where they had made their money and then some on this house, lived here for years, moved out of state, very easygoing. I mean, star clients. And we listed at $699. I think we closed that at $775.
Yeah.
And the other agent might have ended up doing a price reduction, or if I'm not mistaken, he actually might have closed it a little below his
I remember
listing.
him calling
Yeah.
you and saying, what did you do? Why is your property selling so fast, and why am I still sitting?
Because he thought he had the superior property. And I
Right.
said,
You
I've had
priced
this
it wrong.
conversation with a few agents. Get rid of the cell phone photos. You're in the mirror. It looks ridiculous. You're not doing the property justice. Your phone can only take,
Cell
only
phones
has-
have gotten a lot better now, but
They've gotten a lot better, but you want the professional quality,
Right.
the wide angle lens, so that they can get the whole room, better lighting with the flash. You need those things for sure. And yeah, we ended up selling well over them, and my clients thought I was a rock star.
Yeah.
Like they
Well,
listened
you
to me.
were.
And at that time I was. Yes.
That was the strategy.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what's the saying we always say? You only get one chance to make a first impression.
Absolutely.
So, get that property on there, get it priced right, listen to your agent. That's very,
And think
very
about
important.
what buyers are looking for online. They're sitting there and thinking, this is the same exact model
Right.
house. This one's listed this much lower.
Right.
But it worked in our favor. We ended up getting multiple offers, probably 10 to 15 offers on that one. The price got driven up a little bit. Maybe, negotiations happened. Maybe we countered. I don't remember exactly. But we ended up getting them a fantastic price on that property,
Right.
and they were very, very happy.
I mean, because our goal as a listing agent is to get the most money for the client.
Right.
That's what we want to do.
And I think
You know?
that's a misconception that a lot of sellers have is, why do you not think my property's worth this amount? It's not necessarily
Yeah.
what we're trying to say. We're just trying to use.
It's a strategy.
We're trying to implement the best strategy that's going to get you your
Right.
number. So, maybe last year when I ran numbers in Pinole, Hercules, kind of surrounding areas where our office is located, the market was trending about 7 to 10%, or homes were selling about 7 to 10% over where they were listed. Now you take that and apply it to Oakland. Oakland's very different. Oakland, Emeryville, Berkeley, Albany, homes were selling for 20 to 30%
Right.
over asking, right? So the strategies have to be different in different areas, and it really takes an agent that knows these specific areas and knows that in order to educate your buyers and guide them and give them the best chance at getting the property that they want.
Not to mention basic contract terms as far as
Right.
how much money to put down for a deposit is all so specific within the different areas of, the Bay Area, Sacramento, California. You get an out of area agent writing this offer, and the people looking at the offer receiving it, the seller's agent is kind of like, what are they thinking?
Right.
Yeah.
Are they serious right now?
Well,
You don't wanna be
and
that
we
agent.
see that so much. It's
Yeah.
like, and I, like with this property in Pinole, like 4 of the offers were written. Well, I don't want to say 4, maybe 3, were written so poorly, and I'm thinking, how? And I'm looking at the license numbers on the agents, and they're older agents, but how in the world? I had one that came in that was literally DocuSigned, so and that's easy, just send it over,
Right.
and then faxed. So DocuSigned by everybody, and then faxed.
And then they printed it.
Printed it and faxed it. And I'm like, you couldn't even read it. I'm like, I can't even see the proof of funds. This is so bizarre. But it's just little things like that
Yeah,
people
you
don't-
can read a contract and know
Yeah.
who's an experienced agent, who's
Right.
not. Even if you're just filling in the blanks, there's enough information there to know, oh, this person knows our area, what is typical, what is not typical, because some terms in one area is not the same terms
Yeah.
that are
Right.
that we call customary in another area. Some if I'm making an offer in Sacramento or I'm listing in Sacramento, it's going to be very different to what I'm submitting because each county has different expectations and different ordinances.
Yeah.
There's some ordinances. I'll have an agent coming in from out of the area. They're listing,
Have
let's
no
just
idea.
say, and have a buyer. They have no idea that, well, the sewer needs to be inspected. We have a gas shutoff valve ordinance, or
A balcony.
in Oakland, there's a sidewalk ordinance.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes even the sellers don't know that. So they're counting on their agent to be able to share that. And when I go back and go, do you have the inspection for the sidewalk or for these ordinances? And they have no idea what I'm talking about. That's a big red flag that that's somebody who's not familiar with that area.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I just reached out to an agent about a property in San Pablo, and I said, hey, just checking in. Is this property available? Do you have the health and safety inspection? Blah, 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 blah.
What's
Uh,
that?
That's
What's-
very custom
what's
to
that?
San Pablo.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, okay, it's an out of area agent. She had no
Yeah.
idea. But it's like, it's insane that, they don't know these things. But, I mean, they're out of area, so they wouldn't know. I sold a
wouldn't know.
property in Sacramento, and I'm asking all these questions. And she's like, what are you asking me? We don't have any of that stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess we're just super over the top here with our ordinances.
We
and our-
are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
especially Berkeley, Oakland. They want the
Right.
sidewalk there. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
And all of us as agents, we have a wide network of other agents that we reach out to. So if we
Oh, for
don't
sure.
know the area that
Right.
you're in, we have someone either A, that we can call and get updated,
Yep.
or B, that we can refer you to who knows all of this like the back of their hand.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is, I think, critical for people to know is it's really,
Absolutely.
reach out to us. We will help you every
Yeah.
step of the way.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now let's talk about something that's really exciting that's coming up. I think it's starting March 27th is the date.
Oh, yeah.
There's a
The
new
Dream-
program coming out, which is going to help a lot of buyers. So it's called the California Dream for All.
The
It's
California Dream for All.
It's an equity share, and I think that's in
Yeah.
the title. Equity share. It's a loan program. So if you're not familiar with some of these loan programs, I'll give you an example of the one that we had prior to this one. It was a Cal HFA loan that where they lent the buyer 10% or up to 10% of a down payment in order to use, and then the funds were forgivable as long as you remained in the property for 5 years. This program is going to be a little bit different. They're lending buyers up to 20% for your down payment, which is huge. It can really help combat these interest rates and keeps buyers money in their pocket so they can do updates and stuff. But it's an equity share. So we don't have all of the details yet, but what do we know about it? Do we know?
Well, so Carrie, we're going to have her as a guest on the podcast in the near future.
Yep.
But we did an open house with her, and she was just kind of going through it. And she basically said, now I don't know the ins and outs, and we were just kind of discussing it, but she said something about, they'll give you 20%, so it helps bring down your mortgage. And then any money you have that you want to put down, you can put down. Of course, that's your money, and they don't share in that, right? But you put that down to lower your mortgage even more. And we were using a $900,000 example, right? So she was saying they'll give you $180,000. And from what I understand, you can refinance that. Not that you would, unless you had a bunch of equity, but you can refinance that and, of course, pay that off, and then you've got your equity back. But I mean, I don't even know if you'd want to do that because they're giving you $180,000, and I mean, all of a sudden, if your property is worth 1.2, then you can just pay it off at that point. If you have the equity.
Yeah.
But bless you.
Thank you.
That's what's really, really important about the lender that you're using.
Very important, yeah.
We have the lenders that we work with that we trust completely, and to make those referrals to folks to say, listen, they'll be able to provide options, right? Because it's not just a one loan fits all scenario. Yeah. Everybody is different. Their finances are different. Their situation is completely different. So a great lender will be able to say, okay, you qualify for A, B, and C. Now, because of all of those three, here's what this looks like for a monthly payment, for the down payment, the terms, what works best for you and your family, and then to kind of massage that down to a loan that is really customized and works for the client.
Right.
This is just one vehicle. Right, but a great lender will be able to offer, okay, here's three that you qualify for. Here are the pros and cons to those, and really help somebody get in the right direction that's going to work best for them and their family.
Yeah. No, that's super important.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this new loan program, how many buyers it brings back into the market. I know I have a few buyers that are waiting for this, and they've been waiting for this. So I think it's definitely going to bring buyers back into the market. I'm also curious to see how quickly the funds go, because now we're talking about 20%, which before it was 10%.
So the funds will run out?
The funds will run out, yes. Last time, I forget how many months they were available, but I know that within about a week, they said, okay, we're running out. Now everybody has about 7 to 10 days to lock. They gave us a deadline of, I think, November 30th. You must, locate your property, be in contract, and reserve the funds. And then, of course, you can have time to go through your escrow period. But you have to reserve the funds. So I do think a lot of buyers are going to jump in, but time really is of the essence, because when the funds run out, the funds run out, and who knows when the next program will come about. That last one ended in the end of November, December, January, February, March. So about 4 months it took for a new program to come out. And we saw that the market has been pretty hush-hush, we went through that 4 months. Yeah. So I think this will definitely bring buyers back in, which is a great point to make to sellers. You want to get on the market. You want to list before May 15th. After May, things start to change. We have all the holidays, graduations, people are out for the summer, vacationing. So we like to get those properties listed before May 15th, and buyers alike, you want to get those funds reserved as soon as possible.
Right.
I think I have clients, I have buyers right now that are looking, that don't qualify, they qualify for that program. Their feet are already in the door. They're already, researching. We're starting to research places just to be ready and prepared for when they completely qualify.
I think
for that
great.
One of the guidelines, it's considered a low income loan, but I think one of the guidelines is,
and low income being you have to make
120.
you have to make under 120. I'm like, oh, that's low income now?
That's considered
wow.
low. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is a California specific program, so it's the California Dream for All Equity Share loan program or something to that nature. And I think it's going to be a good one. I'm telling my sellers, hey, we're timing the market. I definitely think that this program's going to bring a lot of buyers back into the game.
That's great.
20% is 20%. That can be a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot
You're
of
eliminating
money.
mortgage insurance. I mean, that right there is huge.
You're saving on your payment there. You're
Right.
allowing, like we said, buyers to do updates to the home, maybe take on some repairs if it does get competitive. I'm wondering if it'll bring the competition kind of back. I know that we have normal ebbs and flows, so spring tends to be a little bit more competitive time, spring and going into summer, and then things start to settle down as we head into fall and winter and such. But I think it's going to be a good one. I'm excited for it.
I do too. That's going to help, combat this inflation that we're having, which, I mean, I think, you know, and people might hate me for saying this, but I don't think it's such a bad thing, because it's sort of turning us back into a normal market
Yeah.
and allowing properties to sort of, you know, kind of level off, because we're getting to a point where properties are going up so high that, you know, people are being priced out and nobody can live here, and that's, you know, it's sad.
I almost see it as the same. I kind of see it as a wash, because while prices in some areas are coming down and the interest rates are going up, the same money, right? So some people get really
Right.
scared, like the interest rate is up and now it's 5 or 5.5%, but they don't realize that, or maybe they do, but it's really important to communicate that, okay, but the price is also coming down. We don't have to go $50,000
Right.
over on your offer.
Right.
So, you know, don't be so scared that you're at 5 or 5.5. You could refinance later, but at the end of the day, you're also paying $50,000 less than you would have 6
Right.
months ago. So it really
Take the
is
lower price all day long.
It really is a balance, because you have
Yeah.
the opportunity to refinance later
Right,
when those rates do come down.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think those are all some really good points. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on for
I was
this first
thinking
episode?
about Xavier and his house, and he got a really good deal on his house in Fairfield. You know, and it was that. It's like the rates are going up, and they went up quite a bit, and the prices of property came down, and he ended up picking it up for a lower price,
It's awesome.
and then he can refinance later. But
well,
you
what do
gotta-
we always say? Say it right.
Right.
Date
So
the
date
rate.
the rate.
Marry the
Marry
price.
the price. There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, I mean, you take advantage of the lower price, because you're going to get a better tax bracket, and
Lower property taxes.
Lower price.
Property
You can't change that
taxes.
price. You can change the rate. So,
Yeah.
how are we doing on time?
31 minutes.
Oh, okay. So we're
Good.
doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think we're doing.
How's
really
everybody feeling?
Good.
Do we need more wine?
I mean, the wine
Always.
is great.
I think we do.
Well, and then kind of going off on I spoke with a seller in Pinole, and the house needs some work, some updates. So again, it's talking about, okay, it's going to take X amount to make the updates that I think that the home is going to sell, and you know, you're really talking about an investment, right? So you're going to put $15,000 into the home. Don't think of that as $15,000 for repairs that are going to go away.
Right.
That will not only bring in 15, but the potential of bringing even double that.
Right,
You put
50.
15 in, and you're going to have somebody offering 30 over,
Yeah.
right? It's definitely, you know, I don't have the crystal ball, but it's definitely the possibility.
That's actually a really good point, because I think a lot of sellers are kind of like, I just want to list as is. I've had sellers use this line on me quite a few times. I don't want to do work that somebody's just going to come and undo.
A buyer has their own vision.
A
They're going to
buyer
come in and
wants their own
change
thing.
it.
And I will tell
Yeah.
you this, maybe once or twice we've seen that, usually in the ritzy area where they don't like the tile or they don't like the floor, whatever. Maybe you might see that, but it's not common. And a buyer is willing to pay for what they don't have to do. And you have to figure too, a
Yeah.
buyer, I mean, you know, without this program, they're using their own funds to put for their down payment, and now their payment's higher. Sometimes they're trying to buy down their interest rate, and they don't have a lot left over when they're done. Now they bought this new house, and they don't have a ton of extra funds to update the kitchen, to update the bathrooms, or put new flooring, or whatever, paint, whatever it may be. So it really is important when a seller does this, because buyers, you know, it's much easier for them to finance a higher price for the work that's already done than to come cash out of pocket for these
Exactly.
things.
Some folks, you know, the way that I like to describe it is, for every $10,000 on an offer price is the equivalent of about, let's just say, $50 to $60 a month. So for a buyer to come in, they already have their down payment, which is usually a big chunk of their,
Right.
you know, of their funds. They're not going to come in and offer, let's say, $700 or $730 on a home, and then know that they've got to put another $20,000 into it. That $20,000 is about $120 a month. That's much more digestible over a 30-year period that they can finance than just out of pocket. You know, here's 15 grand on top of my down payment.
And
Right.
while they're willing to pay for what they don't have to do, a buyer, they're also trying to negotiate a lot harder for the things they know they have to do. So what I usually tell my seller is, no matter what your budget, no matter what, how much you have to spend, you give me a budget and I can tell you where to best spend it.
Right.
Sometimes it might be taking care of the not so sexy things like the sewer lateral and things that a buyer's going to have to do because it's an ordinance. Sometimes it's updating the kitchen. Sometimes it's somewhere in between. I have a listing right now where they didn't have the funds to completely redo the countertops, but they did have $1,500 in order to reglaze the countertops. And it gets rid of that old school tile, brings a nice, bright, shiny, you know, white finished tile and just makes it look that much better. So whether it's paint, whether it's doing reglazing instead of replacing, or just little things, refinishing floors instead of replacing them, there's always something you can do. Even changing the doorknobs. Nobody wants to see those old crusty brass doorknobs that have been touched.
It's all in the details.
Yeah, it's all in the details. You
Yeah.
can get a contractor's pack of doorknobs for, $85 for a few. So we always have suggestions. It's really important to have an agent that's very in tune, and like this listing, I've been working with them since November 2019. So we've been in contact for almost over 3 years,
Right.
preparing this. So it's very important to have an agent that's going to stick with you and give you the best advice.
Right. No, that's and I was thinking when you were talking about the glazing, you did that on one of your properties in Pinole, and then ended up selling it at a record price.
Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing price.
My client,
That was
they were
Montclair,
so excited because it was an older home, and so what I said is we want the biggest bang for our buck.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to come in and put $50,000 in, but we want to give the buyer a vision of what it could be. And in doing so, let's get new paint. Okay, we can carpet clean. We'll clean the carpet. We reglaze the orange 1970s countertop.
Right.
And a buyer walks in and it's a clean slate to be able to envision what the personal touches that they could put on the home. And it's livable, right? So they can come in, it's move-in ready. And it was I was so excited for them. In fact, this newest listing is all within the family also. And so they're like, whatever we trust whatever you say.
Yeah.
Because we just want the lowest cost for the most impact. And so we've created a budget, and I let them know, okay, it's not the cheapest thing, right? We're still looking at putting $15,000 into it. But I can almost guarantee you can put $15,000 in the stock market right now, you're probably going to lose some money.
Right.
Yeah.
Put $15,000 into your home, we could probably almost double it.
Yeah.
Just give us that opportunity. And they're just like, let's do it.
And
Yeah.
that one was at the height of the market. My buyers put in an offer on that place. I think we were $50,000 over asking, and we were not even in the ballpark. Not even close.
Well, I got a new
place
listing for you.
blew it out of the water. So.
Well, and the neighbor's house went on the market, and as the market was
Price.
starting to turn, and I don't think they did much to it. They didn't do anything to it, and it didn't sell. And I think they took it off the market.
They took it off the market.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, hey, the next door neighbor sold theirs for way more.
Right.
Like, what's up?
But
And
it's,
so-
Start house
it's really
where that
about
sold.
yeah.
Right.
It's so much about presentation.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, it really is.
Just another little tidbit to add to that. So a lot of sellers might be thinking, well, I don't have any funds. I don't have any budget to do any work. And that yes, I do need more one. And that kind of leads me to this next little piece of information is that there's always a way, right? So our lender actually offers a HELOC that is a home equity line of credit. It goes on your house as a second loan, and they can borrow money from their equity. It's an equity line. They can take money from their equity and use money to update their house. So a great example is I had a client that needed to sell their home in order to purchase their other one, right? That can be challenging, and especially in a changing market, because it's a risk for the home that they're purchasing. They have to wait on them to sell their home. And it needed a little bit of updates, not too much. I think the fence was falling down, needed a little bit of yard work, just some sprucing up. Otherwise, nice condition. So we were able to take some cash out. They were able to replace the fence, got a brand new fence, landscape the yard just a bit, and then they also had money for their down payment on their new property. So that they realized, okay, yes, we're going to have to wait for them to sell their property, but it's on the market. It looks fabulous. We're not too worried about it. And we have their earnest money in escrow. They actually have some skin in the game. Instead
Yeah.
of saying, sorry, we don't have any funds, but we can put it in once our house sells. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So there's definitely options. There's definitely strategies out there, and that's why you hire us to let you know what
Well,
they are.
and there's
Right.
programs actually. Now they're not the most cheapest
yeah.
programs, but there's
Curbio.
Curbio, yeah. I mean,
Curbio
it's
will lend you money essentially
exactly.
to do updates.
It's similar to the Compass concierge thing where, they hire contractors to go out there and then you just pay them. But they're a little more expensive. So if you don't
Right.
have any money,
Right.
yes, they're worth it. But if you've got a budget, even a small one, I would probably work with that over using
Always
a
start
company.
with your own budget for sure. But
Always start with
Curbio,
your own budget.
It's an option. It's an
Yeah.
option depending on how much work the home needs and what
Yeah.
your return might be. There's always going to be a line that teeters when it's worth it, when it might not
Yeah,
be
and
too
some
worth it.
and in some situations it might I might very well say listed as is. right? It's not,
Right.
you're not going to get the benefit of making the updates. So it really is,
Always-
again, everything is a case by case.
It's a
always,
case by
yeah,
case.
case by case.
Yeah.
Always exceptions to the rule. Yes, we have those too, where there's
It's like, don't put
don't
10,000
put
into
lipstick
it.
on a pig.
Right. Well, and somebody who's coming in, right? Let's just say, for instance, you can't get a loan on the house, right? It's a cash only type of home where it doesn't have a stove, and that there's just situations where you're not even going to be. You're going to find you're a cash only investor. It makes no sense to put $8,000 of paint and another $5,000
Sure.
of flooring
Right.
when it's a cash only, and investor's going to want it for this much under market value anyway. So yeah.
But that's why it's important
Paying
to have agents that can guide you
through
and
that.
during case by case and
Yeah.
make that help you make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think to sum it up, in this changing market, there is no one size fits all strategy. Whether you're a listing agent, our strategies tend to work, but whether you're a listing agent or mostly on the buyer side, there's no one size fits all. It's kind of case by case. We have to, make sure you're hiring an agent like us that know the areas really well, the different ordinances, what goes into each area, and what it's going to take to get the property, and how to best strategize to get you the best price, utilize your funds, your personal funds the best, and get you a home, because there's no better way to hedge against inflation except buying a property.
Absolutely.
I have one friend that just posted on Facebook who's renting, and of course the landlord is going to increase the rent usually every year at minimum cost of inflation. But in California, it's their investment also.
Yeah.
So they're going to keep going up. But when you're renting and every year you're paying more and more, when you have a mortgage, if you have the ability to have a mortgage, even if it's a condo, I always say, get your foot in the door. It's a stepping stone. This may not be your forever home. I started the same way. I bought a condo. I still have it. But I have so many clients who are like, okay, we're going to start here, and then we're going to kind of leapfrog and use the equity instead of paying somebody else's mortgage for them, essentially, right? Like,
Yeah.
And then not knowing year over year, how much are they going to increase it this year? 5%, 10%? You're always living in this limbo. So, for those that are out there who, they don't think that they can qualify, there are so many times where people have come to me and say, I don't even think we can qualify for everything. And I said, let's talk to the lender. There's no cost to you to just talk to a lender to see what your options are. And I have so many people, so many of my friends now that are in homes who never thought originally they'd be able to. They just think, I don't have 20% down. I'm not going to be able to qualify. I'm going to rent for the rest of my life.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be the case. And now they know year after year they're going to have the same mortgage payment. It's going to be for 30 years. There's just a sense of security about that.
Nobody's kicking them out at Christmas times.
Right. In a very uncertain world, you have, like, every year, I know what my monthly payment is going to be.
Yeah.
And I recently had someone reach out to me who had a very low credit score, and we put him through to our lender, and the lender referred a credit repair specialist. 3 weeks, went in and raised his credit score like 200 points.
Wow.
So, he was ready to go, and it didn't even, just cost him a couple $100.
That's what I tell buyers too. You may not, first of all, you may be more ready than you think you are. And second, if you're not, we're going to stick with you and we're going to get you ready, because there's no better feeling than being a homeowner. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
It does
And
feel
get you
pretty
on a
damn
path,
good.
right? Like, let's get you to your goal. You may not be ready now. You could be, but if you're not, working with a lender, working with your agent will be able to put you on a path to where, okay, we know in 6 months we can start looking. We know in 1 year, but we know what we need to do to get there. There's so many folks also that are like, I don't even know what to do next.
And
I don't even know what it's going to take.
I want to bust one myth that you said is, buyers say all the time, I don't have 20% down. Let's bust that myth right now. You don't need 20% down to buy a home. Yes, there's programs out there that are offering you 20% down. It does have its benefits. You won't have PMI, but you don't need 20% down to buy a home. There's so many loan products out there, and there's surely something that's going to work for you, or a path that we can put you on so that you can eventually make it happen.
Absolutely. And some lenders know what programs are coming up. Like right now, 6 months ago there was one program. Now we're right in the midst of another type of program. they want, California wants to provide certain programs to get homeowners, right? To get people into homes, right? We have a housing issue, we have a homeless issue, we have all of these things. So they're going to start rolling out these type of government programs that are going to assist. And all you have to do is ask, right? What could I qualify for? What's coming up in the future? And put me on a path to just maybe get there, where you're not paying somebody else's mortgage for them.
My son is going to be 20 this year, and I have been preparing him for years, working with him on his credit. And we were looking probably about 2 months ago at some condos in the area. I found a condo in San Pablo that was about $250, $300 right by Contra Costa College. And we ran the numbers, and that would have been cheaper for him to buy. Well, aside from money down, it would have been cheaper for him on a monthly basis to pay his mortgage than to go rent a place.
Oftentimes
and I was this is what it is. You get yourself a roommate. At 20 years old, you got your own place, and you're building your future.
And at 20, sorry, 2 glasses in. But at 20, get a roommate and help with the mortgage.
Well, right
absolutely.
now in our area, it's $1,000. It's maybe $1,000, but it's more like $1,200 to rent a bedroom.
Oh, at least
from someone.
Yeah.
Sure.
So to be able to qualify, even if it's a 2-bedroom condo, rent the other side out. And a lot of people have an issue with HOAs. Let me talk to you about HOAs, right? Because there's pros and cons to HOAs. One, if your only option is a condo with an HOA, take it all day long, because it's going to get your foot in the door of homeownership. What are the pros and cons of an HOA? So an HOA, why I liked an HOA actually initially when, as a young person, it's my very first condo. I don't have to worry about the roof. I don't have to worry about siding, right? Here's my HOA payment. I don't have to worry about landscaping. I don't have to worry about the sewer. I don't have to worry about water at times. I don't have to worry about the garbage payment. I don't have to worry about the hazard insurance. When you're a homeowner without an HOA, you need to start thinking about how much is the insurance going to cost me, and now the landscaper, and now money in reserves when the roof caves in.
Yeah, you got to put money in reserves.
And you're very close to what that HOA payment is going to be anyway. So sometimes people feel like HOA is throwing money in the garbage. It really isn't, because if you're by a cottage, a 2-bedroom detached home, you still have all of these payments that would normally be covered in an HOA anyway.
So you got to pay yourself the HOA. You're
the
HOA.
You're the HOA.
You're the HOA. Right.
Exactly. When something happens to the exterior, something happens to the roof, something, the landscaper, I pay $120 for the landscaper to come through a month.
Right.
You don't have to pay that when you have that HOA. So there's pros and cons always to that you also have rules to follow.
Right.
But those rules help keep the equity, right? You're not going to have the guy, somebody next door working on 3 cars on their lawn, perhaps, or weeds growing up, to, waist high or wherever. So, so you always have to keep everything in balance.
Yeah, I would
Definitely.
say pros and cons,
Yeah.
But
Cool.
get in where you can get in.
Get your foot in. Yeah.
Get in.
How are we doing, Xavier?
I think we're good. So that was
Wrap
a
it up?
nice little introduction into season 2. Next time we will have our other agents here. Hopefully, don't fall over anymore.
We're gonna have some guests too.
We are gonna have some guests, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Maybe Maddox Real Estate.
MaddoxPodcast.com.
MaddoxPodcast.com. Sorry.
Make sure to click and subscribe,
Should know
and
that.
we really thank everybody for your love and support through our journey in creating these podcasts, and we're hoping that this educates people and allows them to build wealth with real estate.
It means a lot for us to be able to share our passion with you and hopefully help you achieve your dreams. So make sure you follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, Maddox Real Estate, realtor.jamie for me, Katrina Pryor,
Just find me where you
sold
can.
by Amy and Lisa, Jason David Maddox, and Xavier. I don't know.
All right, Xavier.
But follow us on everything, and we look forward to what's to come on season 2 of the Maddox Podcast.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.